Welcome to the See the Good podcast. It's just a podcast about positive, uplifting things, mostly in eye care. And I'm super excited today to have Ash with us. She's an influencer, a little bit, maybe different of a platform of influencer. And so, I think what makes it different is that you have keratoconus, and we'll get into that in just a minute. First, I want you to say your last name for me because I have audible dyslexia and I get so tongue-tied. I got so tongue-tied with Dr. Oloju's name last week, and I don't want to do that with your last name. I look at it on the page and my brain just zaps. So say your last name for us.
Okay, first, I don't want you to be discouraged anytime anybody sees that last name. When they see the double L, their head explodes. So bear with me. It's going to sound a little different than it looks, but it's Arellanes. So it's like Ariana, but instead of it's S. Arellanes.
Arianis. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So great to have you here with us. And your podcast kind of centers around some of your life, but a lot of it centers around keratoconus and living with keratoconus. And, all of my optical friends are going, oh, right now, I feel bad for you. And then the rest of my audience, they want to know, is it contagious?
Very interesting question. I don't think I've been asked that one. That's good. It's not contagious, but it's a pain in the
Yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
And so, you know, you have this condition and for those that in the optical community, we all know what it is. Outside the optical community, you probably get different reactions when you say that term to people, I would imagine, and they're like, what is that? And we all know that, the front of your eye is misshapen in a way that's very difficult to correct to give proper vision, and glasses won't cut it. Sometimes there's surgical options. Those aren't perfect. And it's a lot of what we do at CareLink is research into what can we do with corneas. But so just want to dig into that a little bit, from touring through your socials a little bit. It seemed like it was late in life that the doctors were like, hey, this is what's going on, and started putting you in scleral lenses. Like, how long was it, and how old were you when the doctors are like, hey, I think we have a solution for you finally? What was that like?
So I think it's interesting because you started with my optical friends know what that is, but honestly, some of them might not. And well, maybe now because we're in a different age, but like about 10 years ago, a lot of people just didn't know the name for some reason. So I was diagnosed late because of the lack of awareness and lack of people knowing what it was. Um, it took me, I can't even tell you, like, if I looked all the way back into my life to when like the real like signs started, it was probably like early teens when I was having keratoconus symptoms, but I didn't get diagnosed until I was 21. And
Wow.
so it took a very long time. I had been to three different doctors total to get that answer. And it was in a course of years to get there. And that's part of the reason why I'm so like passionate and I never shut up about it, because the more we talk about it, each person that hears of it for the first time is one more person that's maybe will bring it up more, and it just spreads and spreads and spreads. Because I will argue this till the end of the time. Everybody likes to say keratoconus is so rare. But if you look at people in my age group or older who are diagnosed with keratoconus, almost all of us have an advanced case of keratoconus because they weren't screening for it. They weren't really looking for it because they thought it was so rare. People nowadays are getting diagnosed way sooner, way earlier, and we're finding more and more people have it. Well, not me, but my optical friends are finding
Right.
more and more people have it than we thought. So I really personally believe that it is actually maybe even common, dare I say. It's just now getting the recognition that it needed for so many years. And I think I lost train of my point.
Well, it's interesting, because that was one of the things that we talked about with Dr. Eloju was people falling through the cracks. And
Yes.
and I think it, where she practices makes a difference too. Most of the places that I've lived and worked for optometrists and worked in offices were very rural. And so the patient load was a lot less and it was less concentrated. And, she's at kind of a specialist office, so she gets to see more, ocular surface conditions than the average doctor. So she's really quick to recognize them, really
Hmm.
quick to, get on top of them. But, I think there's a sense in that, when you filter it out and, a tiny little rural town may have five different optometrist offices, and then you divide up that small community to all of those, they just don't see that many, I think. And, I think it is easy for them to fall through the cracks, if they're not
Absolutely, yeah.
looking for it as much and and seeing it as much and being as comfortable with it as somebody like Dr. Aloju and in that fitting,
Yes.
process. So yeah, that was fantastic. So before that, how bad was your vision?
Well, keratoconus is progressive, so it started very small, little things, normal things, which brought me to the doctor. Like I was having trouble seeing the whiteboard in class and getting like driving was getting a little more difficult. Went to the doctor, gave me some glasses. I remember being so excited for those glasses to come in. It was like my senior year, and I was like, I can't wait to have some clarity. And so I get these glasses, and I remember putting them on, and they didn't fit. Sorry, my hair is falling down, and they didn't fit. Um, or they fit. Sorry, I can't
But but
multitask.
but you
The
couldn't
glasses didn't work. Yes,
right.
like it didn't really make much of a difference. And so I remember mentioning that to the doctor, and they had told me, "Well, you have to wear your glasses for them to work," because I wasn't wearing them. And so I was like, "You know what? You're right. You're the doctor. You're going to know." And so from there, it just slowly was getting worse and worse. It was a very slow process until which I got pregnant like a year and a half, 2 years after high school. I had to drop out of college. It's a long story because of my vision. But when I became pregnant, my vision decline just snowballed. So it went from I'm having trouble seeing, night blindness really bad, and then all of a sudden I'm pregnant and I can barely use my phone. I can't watch TV. I can't see like the world around me. I'm getting lost in doctors' offices. Like it was, and so I went to another doctor because like I need help. Something is wrong. And
Yeah.
then this doctor, once again, he was on the line of something is wrong, but I don't know what it is, which is interesting to me because as keratoconus progresses, your corneas kind of cone out into that cone shape. And so I feel like that's a very usually something you would see in an eye exam. Um, and so he thought I had something wrong with my retina, which is so interesting knowing what I know now because
Right.
that is extremely bad.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that at the time. I was like 9 months pregnant when I saw this doctor. And he was like, you need to go to a retina specialist. And I think you have a retinal detachment or a retinal tear, something like of those lines. And I did not know how bad that was. So I was like, I'm going to have my baby first and then I'll deal with that. I wish I probably would have got answers a little sooner had I not delayed that because I had my baby. We're moving. My husband was in the military. There was no time to make it to that retina specialist. And then it was to the point like I couldn't do anything. And so I went and I made an annual eye appointment with this place in Fort Hood, Texas when we moved there with the military. And I walked in there and that's when I got my answers. He was like,
Wow.
"Can you read the E on the wall?" And I was like, "Could you like face me where the wall is?" Like, yeah, it's a long story.
Yeah, yeah. And did you move a lot? Do you feel like maybe your continuity of care was interrupted at times from moving and things?
Um, Honestly, I did move a lot. However, I feel like I love my all my optom friends, all my ophthalmologists. I just feel like we could have done better. There's three opinions in here, and it took the third one.
Yeah, yeah,
So, moving definitely had a factor towards the end because if I would have went into that retina specialist area, whoever that guy was, I think would have gotten my answer sooner, but not as soon as it was still what 2 years between that retina
yeah,
situation and the first doctor. So it's still it was a little bit of everybody's fault.
yeah. It's the interesting, one of the things I wanted to circle back to that you said is that you ended up dropping out of college at that time because of it. And, you know, when Dr. Aloju and I were talking, she was fitting someone in prison and he was
I
telling the
love that
story.
story.
I
Yes.
love that story too. And he was telling about, what it did to him, just losing his vision and then falling into the wrong crowd because of the odd jobs he was doing on the side. And it was just a spiral that began with vision and how impactful vision is. And,
Yes.
I'm what they call a high myope, and my eyes are, too long. The focal length is too long. And so, if I don't have my contacts in, I can only see if I hold something right against my eye. But I
Mm-hmm.
can see it, if I do that, I can see. Um, but there were, some years that I wasn't maybe wearing the best lenses. And I began wearing glasses. The optician, they had put me in some lesser quality lens materials. And,
Mm.
basically at the end of the day, the effect that it had on me was it wasn't like I was going around blind, but without being fully corrected and being in the best materials and having my glasses fit properly, I couldn't see people's facial expressions until I was really close to them. Like
That's heartbreaking
that
because you're
was the
paying money for that service. You're trying
yeah.
to get the best you can get, and then you're still not able to fully live your life the way that you would want to. It's hard to know and to go about a conversation when you can't see someone's face. And I know that so well. But
Yeah.
also, blindness is a spectrum. You were saying it's not like I was walking around blind, but in a way, you kind of were.
Yeah.
There's so much you miss in those fine, tiny details.
Yeah, it really affected like in public my confidence. Like I don't know if someone's looking at me or trying to talk to me or trying to get my
Hmm.
attention because we look for eye contact and I had
Yes.
no idea if there was eye contact or not. And I whenever I had my glasses on, I felt like I was just like there was like I was in like a fog, like I was not in my normal world. And it really wasn't until I started working at an optical laboratory in my early 20s that I started learning about lenses and materials. And I went to a local optometrist. I got an exam. I had a fresh prescription. We made the lenses ourselves there in the lab, and I put them
Oh,
on, and
that's so cool.
I went, oh my gosh, this I never thought I could see out of glasses. Like I just never thought I could. I could see pretty well out of my contacts, but never out of my glasses.
Wow.
And I know that how it restricts you. I think people don't realize the emotional toll it is, just making connections in public and just feeling like you're with it.
Hmm.
It's like almost like for me, when you have a really bad cold and you're just not with it,
Yes,
you feel like you're
absolutely.
sitting in a chair in the back of your head watching everything out there and you're like,
Yes,
I don't
that's
really
so real
yeah,
though.
yeah, it is so real. And I think that, when people can't get refracted to 2020 and they're not seeing their best, the effect that it has on your whole outlook of the day. Even today, if I'm having an eye problem and I have to pull out an old pair of glasses because I never get around to ordering new glasses. I'm really bad at that, and I have to pull out an old pair and wear them around for a day. I'm like this day is just not gonna go good. It's
Yeah.
just I'm just gonna be one level less of Mark today because of that. So I can't even imagine what it would be like to have a progressive condition and begin to have that continual deterioration and not get the answers that you need. I mean, that's did it feel sometimes like a little bit scary or hopeless? Like, oh my gosh, am I gonna see?
So I honestly believed it was all in my head. Yes, I thought my vision loss was me making it up. And so it was frustrating. It's still frustrating to this day because I mean, I was told, wear your glasses and you'll be able to see. So I remember, like, I wanted to be more independent. I was depending so much on my husband. And so one time I said, you know what? I've been to doctors. They've told me this is like, I need to just put my glasses on. I want to go to the store. I'm going to drive to the store. And I got in the car. Oh my gosh. I got like maybe a block and a half away, maybe a little bit farther. And I had to call my husband and have him come get me because I was at the intersection and I just couldn't see what was happening. And sorry, it was so frustrating. And
Yeah.
something that is extra frustrating on top of this is if you get a group of people with keratoconus in a room and you tell the story, more than half of them are gonna sit there, me too, same thing. And it's just, it shouldn't be like that. I have been
So,
arguing with my optom friends for a minute on this, and that I think we should all get a topography machine, which is what we use or they use to
right.
scan for keratoconus, and just scan everybody. Part of like an annual exam. I don't understand what it hurts. But then I talked to Dr. Pooja, I call her Dr. Pooja, about this. And she was like, which she made good points. Okay. But now I'm sitting here because I'm the fix it brain. I want to fix whatever it is. I want to bring the change where I see it's needed. And so she says that's a good idea in theory. But one, they are very expensive. I looked up some because I was curious, and it was like $11,000 for one. I was like, y'all can afford a topography. What do you mean? And she was like, well, the ones that would be able to like really dig in and find keratoconus are more expensive. So she was like, we're talking like maybe 50,000 or more. And I'm like, all right, okay, I feel you there. But then she went into like how it really takes an eye that's experienced. It's not like you put someone in front of the machine, according to her, and it's just like ding, ding, ding. It says keratoconus in big flashing letters. Like, I guess you just really have to look at it and know what you're looking at it. And so that's when the experience comes in. But then I get frustrated because there's so much money to be made in keratoconus, and that is fine. Us patients want the people taking care of us to get their bag. But when people see this, it brings out some hearts that are more motivated by money rather than helping people. And I personally don't believe, because I've been to so many different specialists, just anybody can fit a scleral lens. It's not true.
Right.
So that is, I could just talk for years on this subject. I really could.
So, so I'm going to circle back. So
Okay.
basically, in the beginning, you were gaslighting yourself. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah, you're
Yes, sorry,
like
that was a
it's
long
all in
tangent.
it's all in your head. You're just gaslighting yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so, along the lines of that expense, and yeah, I know it's the industry. There's so many different sides and things that drive our industry. you know, Insurance plays such a big role,
Oh,
and
yes.
doctors are trying to eke out a margin with insurance, and so sometimes they look to a diagnostic machine to, can I bill this code? Can I, and it gets
Hmm.
all kinds of complicated. From there, I just kind of want to transition to, I wanted to ask about your foundation. What's it called? What are its goals? I know that, you know, it's kind of related, and you had gotten into this, so explain a little bit about that.
Okay, so I have founded a nonprofit called the Angel Eyes Foundation. Um, we have big goals. We had really, really, really big goals, and we've had to draw back because the outpour of people in need has been way more than I anticipated. Um, so our goal is, what our whole mission is, to help people who are low income or financially struggling to get scleral lenses and or the necessities to maintain them. So starting out, I thought I was just going to help anybody who needed scleral lenses. We were just going to, which is
Right.
sweet in theory. It
Yeah.
really is. It's not possible. They're so expensive. And
Yeah.
so I had Mary Pruden. She was the director of the National Keratoconus Foundation. She's since moved on from that, but she worked there for years. She's wonderful. I love her. Shout out to her. She reached out to me and she's like, listen, your heart is in the right place, but you need to start smaller. You need to have like a smaller goal so that you're not overwhelming yourself, which I still ended up overwhelming myself. And so I was like, okay, we're going to focus on getting like necessities like the saline and the tools, because there's so much that goes into being able to put in a scleral lens. It's not just
Right.
pop it in and go about your day. And then a certain number per year, we would help like 4 to 5 people with their sclerals, which is still a lot of money. I mean, we're talking, there's some applicants that need almost $5,000 for their lenses.
Wow.
Um, and so that's worked out. Last year was our first year assisting people. We were able to hit our goal. We helped 5 people with their scleral lenses, and then I believe it was 18 individuals got angel care packages from us. So it's like 3 to 6
Awesome.
months supply of saline, all the tools you could need to get you through for a little bit, and it was wonderful. We had to turn off our applications because we had nearly 200 applicants and we have 4 volunteers, and it's a lot of work. So we're going to have to keep them off for a while until we can
Yeah.
get caught up. But you know,
Yeah.
I when I started this process, I said even if we just help one person, I will have accomplished my goal. I just want to help, and so we've done more than that, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, you can't sell that short. I mean, especially as I'm hearing these stories last week, this week. I mean, what is that person that you may have kept off that wrong road that
Right,
that
right,
that ends up
yes.
in a penitentiary or has to drop out of school or and I think it's a really fantastic work and that's really what this podcast is about. Can we bring light to things like this? I'm hoping the podcast just takes off and blows up and your phone ends up ringing off the hook and you're like, oh my gosh, where do we put all of these
Everybody sit
resources?
down.
Yeah, yeah. So, fingers crossed on that. But thank you so much for joining. It's been so fun. And, without you, I wouldn't have met Dr. Loju either. So really, these first 2 weeks of the podcast are on you. I thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share while we wrap it up?
I just thank you for giving me this opportunity to sit down and talk your ear off. And you ever
Yeah.
want to sit down and go back and forth again, we can. We could do a part two.
Sure, sure. And I appreciate it. And I will probably most definitely take you up on a part two. So I'll be hitting you up again. Thanks again, Ash. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.